And taking a cue from you only, sir. We have seen in the recent past, one way we are talking about, we could see a lot of tussle between the RBI and the ministry. It was news everywhere. So being the regulator, one we are talking about the autonomy, which should be guided by the regulatory framework. And definitely everybody looks for our autonomy, but it comes with accountability also. And the autonomy can be in terms of financial, operational. But the point is, what should be the framework and what should be the check and balances on a regulator? So definitely I request, so being a regulator itself, if you can please talk more on this.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, but it's controversial. So I would like to state that disclaimer, which is always a routine one, that the views are personal and not that of the organization that I represent. Now, when we talk about autonomy of the regulator, we have quite a lot. Not only in financial market, we have the aviation regulator. There are sectoral regulators are there. So when you look at autonomy, there are two things that matter. One is the financial autonomy. And when we speak about financial autonomy, how is it ensured? It is ensured by ensuring that the regulator is able to discharge its duties without in a position to rely on the government for its funds. So in the case of SEBI, how do we derive our revenues? Say I or anyone from among the audience or any one of us in this room, to be in a larger context, if we trade in the stock exchange, a part of the brokerage that you give to the broker, that is coming back to SEBI as a levy. So that is one source of revenue. We have a levy on the stock exchanges. So stock exchanges ultimately pass it on to the broker, broker pass it on to the investor. So investors ultimately pay for us. Similarly, when a mutual fund gets registered or a foreign portfolio investors come to invest in India and they get registered with SEBI, which is a prerequisite before they can undertake their operations, they have to pay a registration fees. So that also becomes a source of our revenue. But you may have read about another instance where, which comes on a daily basis also, that look, SEBI has imposed a penalty of this much amount on a particular entity. But the statute has put in place, the Parliament of India has put in place a check on that one. It cannot be that, we can be so trigger happy, we can go and impose penalty and we can enrich our kitty. No. The penalty that is imposed by SEBI, it goes to the Consolidated Fund of India. So there is no question of SEBI getting its revenue by penalizing any of the entities, the market participants or the market intermediaries. So we have a certain defined source of revenue. We are not dependent upon the government. That way our financial autonomy is ensured. Now coming to the second part, which is the operational autonomy. What is the requirement for setting up a government, a body like SEBI or RBI as a regulator, or IRDA, PFRDA, you name it, I can agree to that. Why is it that the Ministry of Finance or any other department in the government itself does it? Reason is, if you look at the Constitution of India, we have three wings: the judiciary, the legislature and the executive. Executive consists of government, but government has put in place its own ministry, and under its administrative jurisdiction there are these regulatory bodies are there. And those regulatory bodies are a creature of the Parliament because they are all set up under an Act of Parliament, and that Act has a provision which says that government can give instruction to the regulator, any regulator, only on matter of policy. So that is why we have only on matter of policy we need to just listen, if at all it comes in writing specifying that particular section of the Act. Otherwise, as regards anything related to the operational matters are concerned, The regulator is free to take its own decision, and that ultimately comes from the fact that the rationale for setting up a separate body other than the ministry is to ensure that that particular body has operational freedom, autonomy, and it has the technical expertise. The Reserve Bank of India, when it is a body which is from 1935 vintage, it has that much of expertise that is built into that institution, and so with any other body that has come subsequently. Now, it's not that, autonomy can be a standalone subject. It has to go with accountability. Now, when I say accountability, the Act itself has put in certain provisions for ensuring accountability. So, in addition to the section in the Act which enables the government to give an instruction to the regulator on policy matter, a directive to the regulator on a policy matter, there are representatives of the government on the board of the regulator. Second, as regards the policies and programs and activities are concerned, every regulator is required after the completion of the financial year to submit to the parliament through the administrative ministry an annual report. So that also ensures that the parliament is regulator is accountable to the parliament through the concerned administrative ministry. Now, this is the, what I will say, the factual position. And if you have to see till date, there has not been any instance of any, encroachment of a real sort on any regulator. And if you look at the Financial Sector Assessment Program of India conducted jointly by the IMF and World Bank, they have commented on the autonomy of the regulators in India in every section. So it's not just, de jure, they have recognized de facto autonomy of the regulators in India. This is something which is there in the reports that are coming out every 5 years. The latest one is the 2017 report. Now, you look at, another aspect of it. It is not related to financial markets. You look at the, because I started from the division of power in the Constitution of India. You look at the President of India. President of India, of course, we can say he is elected through an indirect method. It's not the people who elect, it is the elected representatives who elect, and we have the directly elected Council of Ministers. Similarly, if you come to the state, governor is there, governor is an appointee, whereas the state government, it is elected by the people of the respective state. Now, it is the government, state government, which has to face the people every 5 years or as and when they decide, call an election. Like in the case of Telangana, it's not even 5 years. But the governor, he has a fixed term, whereas the Council of Ministers, which is assisting the governor, is directly elected by the people. So they are accountable to the people, whereas governor is not directly accountable to the people. So if you look at a similar provision, see, a Council of Ministers recommends something which the governor does not agree in the first place. Governor can revert the matter back to the Council of Ministers. But if the Council of Ministers stick to that particular stand and they again recommends the same, governor does not have a second chance to revert the matter. He has to agree to the Council of. That is the context in which you should see the Ministry of Finance or the Union Council of Ministers. They are accountable to the people. They are going and facing elections every 5 years. Whereas regulators, they are not directly accountable to the people. They are accountable through the ministry, through the Standing Committee of Finance or other committees of the Parliament. And this is how the, it's not just in particular with regard to financial markets or regulators as such. You can see this particular relationship in other wings also. So these are my comments. Thank you.
I appreciate, sir. In today's time, when we see the regulator, earlier there was a time, when you hardly get a notification or a change in a month's time. But today, when you sleep at 11 o'clock in the evening, you get a mail from IBB, a change. When you get up 7 in the morning, again there is another mail. So I can understand what regulators are going through also. In short, if you look at, till September 2018, around close to 1198 cases has been filed in insolvency process. And we have seen in July-September quarter, 216 cases further added up. And 816 cases already under CRP process. And 52 cases have been resolved. And possibly around 212 cases went for liquidation. And 238 cases have already crossed the limit of 270 days.
See, we have been seeing large number of cases coming to NCLT, and then sometimes we are seeing that there is a delay and all that. When they started, they said that there was an online exam for the IP, and the criteria was very, very much flexible. I know people, those 10, 12 years, some company secretary doesn't have any experience in the industry, no other experience from the finance side, pure company secretary. But 10 years practice, online exam pass, and he become IP. And then the case comes to him, he has to go to the other outsider to help, to get the help and all that. So this was brought to the notice of IBC chairman, and I talked to him also because I know how it has happened. And now the exams also have been made slightly more strict. But if you really want to have the good IP, definitely we have to still go into the sense that they have really, really experience either in finance or industry. Then only this resolution process will be more faster.
And we have seen, sir, when the COC started earlier, I know the bankers even, when they come for the meetings and COC, they were not even, empowered. But today, things have changed. Even the NCLT and high courts have given a lot of decision in these areas. And now when they come with the mandate. So this kind of changes have been brought in. And possibly, from, Agarwalji, I'd like to know, what should be the role of the professionals? Because finally, bankers are also going to rely on a doctor. That is a resolution professional. So until unless he is not, the person who has the required bandwidth and requisite knowledge, rather when we talk about for what I personally feel, if you are handling insolvency cases, you have to build up an Apollo hospital. It is not a one-man show because, especially if you are working in an infra, steel or any other manufacturing sector, you need an expertise from a different sectors. You need engineers with you.
But I tell you, here, the cases which are in the ICU are being referred to the general practitioners.
So let's listen to the doctor itself.
It's quite interesting, like, say, control of a corporate, moving away from the promoters in the hand of the resolution professional, that is the essence of the code. Immediately upon admission of CIRP, controls moves to the resolution professional who in turn is to be guided and monitored and advised by the committee of creditor in various decisions of running that enterprise. As I can say, at least for my bank, say every structure, every system, umpteen number of times, we have also revised our internal instructions, guidelines, circulars for the very clearly. But as regime was changing, code was changing, we were also coming out immediately. We were the one, I think, first one, immediately coming out with a policy and subsequent changes. So, bank representatives are adequately empowered to give very clear decisions from our side in the committee of creditors. I can say that. Another thing is that when the control moves, company affairs are to be run by the resolution professionals. Yes, his competence is very, very relevant. One of the tasks which is envisaged from is to prepare information memoranda. I believe it is 75 days. Yes. From the commencement date of CIRP, he has to prepare an information memoranda. A new person, a very complex business, very complex company, bigger of the cases are going to be complex. To have all the information, data, generally not having cooperation from the promoters, from the directors, and he has to look into the transaction, he has to prepare a memoranda and come out timely to call for expression of interest and subsequently resolution plans. Crux of the matter, I believe, depends upon how well that information memoranda is prepared. There, of course, creditors also can help him, can facilitate him from the bank side, and who are always ready to help. Let's not go, yes, in the sense, it's too early to comment anything about the competence of resolution professional, frankly. I will not like to comment. It's a very important entity in the entire scheme of things. And say, if need be, I believe regulator is very well aware. He can always come out with